Your prefrontal cortex, the strip of brain tissue right behind your forehead that controls every decision you make, is being systematically exhausted right now, not tomorrow, not eventually. Right now, as dopamine floods your synapses faster than your receptors can process it. An NIH study confirmed that dopamine doesn't boost your cognitive ability. It manipulates whether your brain even perceives a task as worth attempting. That means the reason you can't focus isn't laziness, it's neurochemistry. Your motivation circuitry has been recalibrated by a digital environment your nervous system was never designed to survive. And every time you scroll past a 15-second video to the next one, you are training your brain's reward system to demand more stimulation for less effort, a loop neuroscientists call dopamine desensitization. But here's what no one tells you. Your nervous system already contains a built-in recovery protocol, a sequence of biological switches that can reverse this damage in weeks. The problem is most people never activate them, and the single most critical switch is the one that requires you to do absolutely nothing. Start with what's actually happening inside your skull when you open your phone. Your brain operates through massive electrical networks, constellations of neurons firing together. Two of these networks matter most right now. The first is the dorsal attention network. It points your focus outward, at tasks, screens, the physical world. The second is the default mode network, and this one activates when you stop paying attention to anything external. It's the system responsible for deep thinking, self-reflection, planning, creativity, the architecture behind every insight you've ever had. A peer-reviewed study published in a neuroscience journal indexed through PubMed Central found something extraordinary. Dopamine literally changes how these two networks talk to each other. In a resting state when no screen is demanding your attention, dopamine enhances coupling between your control network and your default mode network. It strengthens internal cognition, reflection, imagination. But here's the fracture. That same study showed dopamine simultaneously reduces coupling with the externally focused attention network, meaning your brain at rest is designed to turn inward, to think deeply, to wander productively. Now consider what happens when you never rest, when every idle moment is filled with a notification, a reel, a scroll. You never activate the default mode network. The internal cognition system starves. The deep thinking architecture goes dark, and your dopamine, instead of orchestrating reflection, gets hijacked into an external stimulus loop that demands more and more input to generate the same reward signal. This is not metaphor. Research on dopamine D2 receptor desensitization demonstrates that chronic overstimulation triggers a complex cascade involving glutamate release and intracellular calcium concentrations. Your receptors don't just get tired. They physically down-regulate, closing like doors slamming shut across a hallway that used to be wide open. The result? You need louder, faster, more extreme content to feel anything at all. A book feels boring. A conversation feels slow. A 10-minute task feels impossible. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's adapted to the wrong environment. But there's a problem with that neural mapping, because a separate clinical study found something that complicates the entire picture, and it has to do with what happens when you try to switch tasks. Here's where the conditioning loop reveals itself. Researchers studying reward motivation and striatal dopamine signaling discovered that dopamine dysfunction doesn't just reduce your attention span, it specifically cripples your ability to switch between tasks. The dorsal striatum, a deep brain structure shaped like a cashew buried under your cortex, relies on dopamine to weigh whether switching your focus is worth the effort. When that system is overstimulated and desensitized, every task switch costs more cognitive energy than it should. This is why you pick up your phone to check one thing and 45 minutes vanish. Your brain cannot execute the switch back. The cost feels too high. The reward of staying in the scroll feels neurochemically like the smarter choice. And here's where popular advice fails catastrophically. You've heard the term dopamine detox. Harvard Health Publishing dissected this trend and concluded bluntly, a dopamine fast does not actually lower your dopamine levels. Dopamine rises in response to rewarding stimuli, but avoiding those stimuli doesn't drain the chemical from your brain like emptying a bathtub. The trend got the neuroscience completely wrong. But, and this matters, the behavioral instinct behind it pointed at something real. Harvard's analysis noted the actual goal should be reducing domination by unhealthy stimuli. The texts, the notifications, the beeps, the rings. The issue was never the molecule. It was the environment. A 2024 review evaluating the entire dopamine hypothesis reinforced this complexity. The evidence supports dopamine's involvement in attention dysfunction, but PT and SPAT brain imaging studies do not show a simple low dopamine state. Instead, the literature reveals conflicting results, both increased and decreased extracellular dopamine within the same frontostriatal regions. Your dopamine system isn't depleted, it's miscalibrated. And that distinction changes everything about how you fix it. Because willpower doesn't recalibrate a neurochemical system. Specific nervous system activation does. Except there's one biological reaction most people have never heard of, and it's the key to the entire recovery protocol. The vagus nerve, the longest nerve in your body, a cable running from your brainstem through your neck, past your heart and into your gut, is the master switch between two nervous system states. Sympathetic activation is your fight or flight system. Every scroll, every notification, every rapid-fire video triggers it. Your heart rate elevates, cortisol trickles into your bloodstream. Your prefrontal cortex diverts resources away from deep thinking and toward reactive scanning. Parasympathetic activation driven by the vagus nerve does the opposite. It slows your heart rate, it lowers cortisol, it restores blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, and critically it allows the default mode network to re-engage. The deep thinking system comes back online. This is the recovery protocol your nervous system already contains, and it activates through 3 specific mechanisms most productivity advice completely ignores. First, structured boredom, not meditation, not mindfulness apps that ironically keep you on your phone, literal boredom. Sitting with zero input, no music, no podcasts, no stimulation. When you do this, your default mode network reactivates, and your brain begins the internal cognition cycle that rewires attention pathways through neuroplasticity. Second, vagal tone training. Slow, extended exhalation. Breathing out for twice as long as you breathe in directly stimulates the vagus nerve. This shifts your entire nervous system from sympathetic overdrive into parasympathetic restoration. 6 breaths per minute. The prefrontal cortex reoxygenates. Decision-making architecture comes back online. Third, ultradian rhythm alignment. Your brain cycles through 90-minute focus windows naturally. Pushing past that window doesn't build discipline, it accelerates cortisol accumulation and depletes the GABA reserves that keep your glutamate system from overfiring. Working with the rhythm instead of against it means 90 minutes of focused effort followed by genuine cognitive rest. Not a phone break, but a sensory break. The Finnish school system discovered this decades ago. Mandatory unstructured outdoor breaks between every lesson. Their students consistently outperform on sustained attention metrics across international cognitive assessments. Not because Finnish children are different, because their nervous systems are allowed to complete the recovery cycle. Your dopamine receptors can upregulate. Your default mode network can reactivate. Your prefrontal cortex can rebuild its capacity. But only if you stop treating brain rot as a willpower failure and start treating it as what it actually is, a nervous system stuck in a sympathetic loop that your vagus nerve is waiting to interrupt. The question isn't whether your brain can recover. The neuroscience confirms it can. The question is whether you'll activate the switch or keep feeding the loop that's rewriting your neural architecture one scroll at a time. The conditioning is running. Your receptors are listening. Your vagus nerve is waiting for a signal you haven't sent yet. Next, we decode the protocol your nervous system uses while you sleep, and why most people are sabotaging it before midnight.